Since 2017, really 2018, there's been a total change in the world of FUE by the advent of what are called hybrid devices. I did a podcast on this earlier, and I really encourage you to listen to that. The summary is that the hybrid punch is essentially a hybrid between a sharp and a dull punch. The sharp punch offered a very clean harvest with minimal bearing of grafts in the past, but had a much higher transection rate. In other words, cutting through the hair. The blunt punch had the advantage of having a lower transection rate, but the blunt punch suffered from the fact that it was not a clean harvest. It caused more trauma to the grafts and sometimes graft burial. And the other problem is these older technologies were rotating, so high-speed rotation, which caused a lot of injury to the graft itself, stripped it down. The newer technologies using this hybrid punch looks like a trumpet, where the front of it is flared out, so the sharp edge is away from the graft, still allowing it to go into the down and creating a clean harvest. But the front-facing end of it looks like the trumpet is flat, allowing the graft to come out very safely and less transection. Also, the instrument oscillates. So in other words, instead of high-speed rotation, it wiggles downwards in an oscillating fashion with variable degrees. So, the newest advent in the last couple of years has been the Trivolini device or the Mamba device. I use both the WOW device, W-A-W device, as well as the Trivolini or the Mamba device. I now really prefer the Trivolini device for a few reasons. First of all, is it's so much lighter in the hand. So when I'm harvesting a lot of grafts, it gets very tiring, and the WOW is a much heavier instrument. The second reason is that they have something called a smart react. So once the FUE device touches the skin, it starts to engage the rotation. So it's much less tiring of having to do a foot pedal the same time I'm holding the instrument as I'm harvesting. And both of these devices, the WOW and the Mamba, are both hybrid devices that use oscillation rather than high-speed rotation. And then the other benefit of the multiphasic is the fact that it also does three phases. So the first phase is a rotational cutting phase where it cuts through the skin. Then it slows down toward the oscillation phase, wiggles down through the tissue, and then it has a vibrational phase at the end that just releases the graft. And I will alter this based on the skin dynamics. So sometimes there's a very thick dermis, especially lower down in the scalp toward the occiput range. And what I do with that is I'll turn up the rotational phase to allow it longer time to go through the dermis. And then I will use a shorter shorter oscillation phase, because the subdermis is shorter. And the benefit of that is it allows me to get less risk of transection, less risk of graft burial. But if I'm higher up on the scalp, for example, where the dermis is maybe thinner, the angles are different, you want to use a shorter rotational phase, because if it's too long a rotational phase, you'll have a higher chance of transection. So that multiphasic dimension is so nice, because it allows me to adjust the parameters based on the type of scalp I'm dealing with, the region of the scalp I'm dealing with, and make those adjustments. I can even adjust the degree of oscillation, how far the angles are going back and forth. I usually around 300 degrees, but you can adjust the degree that it oscillates back and forth as well. And the other final point that I love about this device is that it has suction. So the suction component allows me several benefits. One is, once I've come out, the graft sort of sits a little bit better above the skin, so that allows the graft is not suctioned in like the older device with the what is it called, blanking on the name, Neograft. The Neograft machine sucks it all the way into the chamber, which causes a lot of desiccation and damage to the graft. This one, unlike the Neograft, the Neograft is ancient compared to these. I mean, that's like 20 years old. It's so outdated. But this also, the other benefit of this is that the suction, when I'm getting a little blood on the field, I can clear the suction, I can suction away the blood with the FUE device, then continue with the harvest. So it saves time, makes it more efficient, makes the field cleaner, I can see better. So for all these reasons, the multiphasic device has really become my preferred method of doing FUE harvesting.